Christopher McGee for Health and Fitness The Truth, and in this video I'm going to be going over one of yoga's oldest and most basic core concepts, not to mention one of the best lifelong practices anybody could pick up, and that is meditation. So as always in all my yoga videos, I'll be going over the muscles that are being used in this pose. I'll be going over the cues that I like to give, the few simple ones that there are for getting into this posture. And I'll go over what meditation can do for you in your life. Like my last video, mountain pose or Tadasana, seated meditation is just a really common place from which to start a yoga practice. So let's check it out. I had to leave the yoga room and come all the way over here to drive so I could use Ozai over my shoulder here to reference all the muscles that are involved in seated meditation. Now, it might seem counterintuitive that in a seat you're using muscles much, but the longer you're in seated meditation, the more obvious it becomes that you are using muscles because they get sore and tight. So think about, if you're in seated meditation, if you've ever done it before, what are those spots that get sore and tight? Think about that. And pretend for a moment, whether you've done seated meditation or not, pretend for a moment that you get into a cross-legged, seated, upright position. What happens if you get there and then you don't use any muscle at all? What happens? You just flop over, right? So what are the muscles involved in keeping you from just flopping over if you're seated on the ground in an upright position? They are generally your hip flexors and a chain of muscles up the back of your spine that we'll talk about. So let's look at hip flexors and that posterior chain of muscles up your back. Right, here's Ozai. It'll take way too long to pinpoint and name every single origin and attachment or insertion point of all the muscles involved. Let's talk about hip flexors for a second. Okay, now your psoas muscle comes from here. It attaches to all this spot on your vertebrae. It comes straight through in front of the pelvis and it attaches here on the lesser trochanter. Your iliacus comes off this entire broad surface and it goes straight down to the same point, the lesser trochanter. Okay, your sartorius comes from here at the pelvis and comes all the way down to the front medial side of the tibia. Okay, and your rectus femoris, just like the rest of your quad, inserts down here on the tibial tuberosity, of course via the patella, and then it comes up. The rectus femoris passes the hip joint, the only of the four branches of the quad to do so, and it attaches up here. So you can see how all four of those muscles, they are attaching up here or here or here, and they're attaching past the hip joint, okay? They're attaching on either here or they're coming way down here. And so you can see how if those fire, they will pull the knee up toward the rib cage, okay? And this is the position of hip flexion. Okay, now backing away from there, we're gonna turn Ozai around real quick, okay? And we're gonna mention this chain of muscles that runs all across the back of all these vertebrae, okay? From your pelvis, along the vertebrae, up into the ribs, and all the way up here to the base of the skull. You've got a chain of muscles that jointly are referred to as erector spinae, okay? And we're not even gonna pretend to talk about all of their origin and insertion points, but suffice it to say that it attaches all over the place. It originates and attaches from each vertebrae to the next, okay? Along these dorsal and transverse processes of the vertebral bodies. It also comes from the hips onto the vertebrae, it comes from the vertebrae onto the ribs, okay? And so you can see how if any of that shortens, it's going to keep your spine pulled upright. If you are slouched over and a bunch of muscles connecting the vertebrae to each other and to the ribs and to the hips, if those shorten, you will shorten the distance between all those joints, effectively pulling yourself upright. Oh wow, I just gave Ozai a serious problem with that vertebrae. Pretended to be a chiropractor for a second and fixed him. Oh, he's not pleased. All right, Ozai's fixed. Anyhow, you can see how those hip flexor muscles that cross the hip joint, when they fire, they bring the hip up, or the knee up rather. You can see how all those muscles along the spine, when they shorten, it just keeps you upright. I would refer you again to the video I made on mountain pose or Tadasana that talks about keeping the shoulders back and down, which I can't really point out on Ozai because his scapula are fused into his ribs. Hopefully that all helps you understand why it's always your hip flexors and your back that gets sore when you're sitting cross-legged and upright for any extended amount of time. Okay, the cues I give for this pose are simply take a comfortable cross-legged seat, get your torso upright with your shoulders back and down, and close your eyes, and simply let your hands fall wherever they're comfortable. And side note, there are a lot of different ways to cross your legs. This is the way I'm doing it. I don't have one leg on top of another, although that's a possibility, right? Just like classic Indian style, like we learned to cross our legs in kindergarten. I think I'm doing it right. I've done it forever. There's the common lotus pose where you have to pull each ankle on top of the opposite thigh, which some people are okay with. I hate it. If you like it, do it. But I just cross my legs like this. Hips externally rotated, one ankle right in front of the other. That's it. If you followed those cues, you would be in the posture of seated meditation. But how do you actually meditate? So much could be said and has been said about meditation. So I'm just gonna tell you what kind of meditation I do, how it works, what it does for me, what it might be able to do for you. I was introduced to Vipassana meditation. And in Vipassana meditation, the idea is to hold still and focus on your breath. I like the Headspace app. It's a free app that basically gives you a really helpful and really encouraging guidance through Vipassana meditation. Not to mention that it's all done in a really entertaining, soothing, fun to listen to British accent. One of the descriptions that I like in that app of Vipassana meditation goes a little bit like this. Imagine yourself sitting next to a road, and the cars that drive by on the road are your thoughts, and the road itself is your mind, okay? In meditation, you're not trying to stop yourself from having thoughts in order to focus on your breath. You're not supposed to jump out into the road and try to yell at all the cars and wave your arms and get them to stop. It's useless and it's unhelpful. Rather, you are sitting on the side of the road, content to watch your thoughts go by and using each one as a focus, a reminder to refocus on your breath. You're content. And this can be such a huge and liberating and helpful practice of introspection, because while you're focusing on your breath, at the same time, as a thought passes by that sometimes you try to shame yourself for having that thought, or as a thought passes by that sometimes you try to run away from because you don't like the implications of that thought, or sometimes a thought goes by that often pulls you in a direction that you don't want to go, right? As in any kind of an addiction, social media, drugs, whatever it could be. Being able to contentedly watch those thoughts come and go. They will pass, as all things do. They will come and go, and you can stay centered, grounded, focused on something that's real. And you know that your breath is real. You don't necessarily know that all of your perceptions of your thoughts and other people's actions and how the world is happening around you, that may not all be a proper reflection of reality. It's your reality, and you can learn from how you are perceiving what's happening around you. But imagine how helpful it would be to be able to sit back and watch all those things pass by and not have a reaction and trigger yourself with your own thoughts. Hugely beneficial practice. So that is seated meditation. Thanks for watching, guys. If you found this video helpful for you, please let me know. If you've got anything to share about it, if you've had awesome experiences with meditation, or if you struggle with meditation, let us know in the comments, okay? We can talk about it, we can have a conversation. The next video we'll do in the playlist for yoga is going to be forward folds. We'll look at forward folds, whether you're standing or seated, and what you're looking at there and how that's all happening. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.